You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're talking about Idaho. No, Idaho. So, Lauren.
Oh my God. Yes, Kenzie.
Let's get scary.
I feel like I haven't seen you in a really long time because you haven't stayed for dinner in a really long time. And now you're finally staying for dinner, and I'm very excited.
Yeah. I feel like we were supposed to do something because I was like, oh, next time I'll be staying for dinner, so we'll have time to do. And I don't remember what said do was.
Oh my God. I'm supposed to be in a book club with some people from work, and we wanted to be done with the book at the end of the month. So like last month. So we're hanging out on Saturday, which was well into August. And they were like, Lauren, how far into the book are you? Because I'm the one who picked it. And I said, I'm on chapter 3. And they go,
damn.
They go, okay, I'm on chapter 2. And someone's like, I just started. So I was like, okay, we'll push it back a month.
Like doing like a book report or whatever. Or like a project in school. Have you started reading the book yet? Have you started the project? Have you started the paper?
Yup.
And mine was always, no.
And you're still like that.
Correct. Although, I got up today. I told myself, you're going to get out of bed by 8:45. And I got out of bed by 8:50.
Wow.
And scroll on TikTok for 2 hours like I do most mornings. I got up out of bed, and I made my pretty Snelligaster. And then I typed up my story. And then I colored in my Snelligaster.
Wow.
And I got all things done except for the laundry that I wanted to do today because I forgot.
Because you guys will see our Snelligaster that Mackenzie drew.
I figured I'd put it with
Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the time people hear this,
you'll have already seen it. If you
You'll have
haven't,
seen
go
it.
back and look at my masterpiece. Because I drew it this time. Well,
just like our Gloucester Ghoul.
competing.
I know. It looks great.
You got a drawing versus a graphic.
All the different forms.
Both not scary.
No. But that's okay.
That's okay. I can't watch scary and I can't draw scary.
And you can't really make something scary when they have duck feet.
Or
Or mouth tentacles.
or mouth tentacles. Like I just can't I can't take it seriously. Like,
No.
blah, 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 blah. You watch Futurama, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the squid guy?
Zoidberg.
Yeah. That's all I could thinking of when I was drawing these tentacles.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
It does kind of look like him.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Any new fascinating things? Oh, I got to tell you about the elevator from today.
Oh, no.
No. It's fancy. I took
Oh.
pictures and a video.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So what you do is you come up and you tell what floor you want to go to. So then you push the button and it tells you which elevator to stand at. So it was like stand at C. So like, because I had pressed lobby. And so it says use elevator C. So then I stood by elevator C. So then the doors open, you go in. There's no buttons. Trust.
I don't like that.
And so like on that little thing, I guess during rush hour, it shows the order of the different levels it's stopping or going to or whatever.
That's real smart.
And I was like, I like that in terms of traffic flow, but it freaks me out when I walk in there and there's no fucking buttons.
I don't think I could.
Well, it was on the 9th floor, so.
I probably still would have taken the stairs. My cardiologist was on the 12th floor. I would take the stairs to the 12th floor, and then they would take my heartbeat, and they would ask why I had an elevated heart rate. Because one time I sat down, she's like, oh, your resting heart rate appears to be 85. And I was like, because I just took the damn stairs. Of course it's high.
Yeah, no. Even as I got on there, I was like, I feel like she would cave for 9. Like, that's a lot.
Your cousin lived on 16.
Yeah, but that was also because you had just done 1 to 11 and you couldn't do both.
That is true. I only have so much mental capacity for elevators.
Yeah. And I knew it was on a top floor. When you get up there, the view is very pretty. You can
I bet it is.
You can see DC from there.
I bet it is
It's
beautiful.
Very cool. But it always like keeps changing locations on the same floor.
What does?
My doctor's office.
Oh.
So I get very confused.
That is very confusing.
So I don't want to take the stairs because I already get very confused. And there's not ample signage.
There have been times when I've taken the stairs and they'd led me to very much the wrong place.
Yeah.
And then I have to backtrack and
And this one, I was like, this seems safer. It was a very smooth ride.
Oh.
I watched it the whole time. It had a little belly drop when it stopped, but it didn't like thunk. It
Yeah.
didn't make any weird noises, and it just opened.
See, it's the waiting for the doors to open, which scares me because that's what happened when we were stuck, where the doors didn't open.
Well, we didn't even move.
Well, we didn't move, but the doors didn't open.
That too.
So now if I'm at in an elevator and we get to the floor and the doors don't open, in that 0.1 second that I'm waiting in the elevator for the doors to open, my brain is like, oh my God, we're stuck. Where's the phone? Where's my phone? Where's this? Where's the, everything is going through my brain in that 1 second. And then the doors open and I'm standing there like,
See, mine's opposite because mine is more if the door closed and we don't start moving right away, that's what's going to make me think we're stuck.
oh, same.
Yeah.
Same. The doors need to close. We need to move immediately.
Less so when we reach the floor because unless it's a pause that's too long.
Yeah.
Of all the elevators we've ever had to use, I think this one is top in terms of safety.
Okay.
I think you would like it, but also at the same time, not seeing the fucking buttons in there really fucks with your head.
Yeah.
So, and I only go there once a year, so I forget every time.
Because I think you've showed me this elevator before because the pressing of the floors thing.
Oh, I definitely
reminded me.
Because I've been like, this is crazy.
Right.
And I clearly forgot again that that's what I had to do. And I was like, this is crazy.
The worst one was still when we went to see my grandma's new place. I was forced onto the elevator and there were a ton of old people, so I couldn't make a scene. And so we get on and the doors close and we really don't move for a little bit. And I think it's because with them being a little bit older, they all have to get situated before the elevator decides to move, right? For safety reasons. And so we're in
You
it.
think the elevator's programmed to pause for the elderly?
Yes. To not start moving right away. And so it finally starts moving. We get off and Mom was like, oh my God, I was praying so hard for that thing to start moving.
Right? I feel like being in scary situations with someone where you're not scared, but they are.
Oh, yeah.
Please don't let anything bad happen. Please don't have a meltdown. Please just move. Please don't do anything because I don't think I can handle her not being able to handle this.
Oh, but I did have a creepy thing happen the other day. I think I debunked it, but still. Joe was walking Roy or something, and I was sitting on the couch, and Richie was downstairs. And
this story is you're never gonna want me alone again.
Thanks. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I hear something sound like it goes da-da-da, a slight,
a ringtone?
A singing voice, someone saying it, and it sounded like it was in the kitchen.
Like a human voice?
Yes.
Singing?
Yes. Just made a little noise. And I popped up and I looked at the kitchen. Obviously no one's there. And I'm like, Joe? No. Richie? Nothing. I called Richie's name again. Nothing. And I'm like, so Joe came inside and I told him. But then I think it might have been Richie because I heard the washing machine on. Don't know if it was on before or not, but it was very, very creepy.
Do you think that because we talk about all the ghosty things that we do and we're always in your place that eventually they come check us out?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about them?
Yeah. Because I listen to some other spooky podcasts and people who will write in will be like, I don't listen in my house because I used to and things started to happen, so I stopped listening in my house.
Listening?
Yeah.
Well, we're talking.
I know. Exactly.
Have you ever had those dreams where it wakes you up because it sounds like whoever was talking is actually said it right in your ear?
Yes.
Those fucking freak me out.
Oh, I hate those too.
Yeah,
or when there's a noise and you don't know if the noise happened in real life and that's why it woke you up or if it was in your dream.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I hate all of it.
So, Idaho.
They're not as dramatic as the Tetons or as historic as the Sierras, but the Sawtooth Range in Idaho's midsection packs plenty of adventure.
I bet they're mountains.
The Tetons?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. A jagged skyline of 50 spiky peaks over 10,000 feet high gives the range its name. Cradled between the spires are hundreds of lakes created by vanished glaciers, and the surrounding forests are home to wolves. Below...
You say it like that.
I don't know. It sounded more fun that way. Made it sound mysterious.
Okay.
Below, the valley floor is crisscrossed by the Salmon River and dozens of smaller streams where kayakers navigate churning rapids and anglers cast flies onto clear waters. Speaking of wolves, there was this one time Joe and I went to a cabin with some of our friends and they played hide and seek the night before I had to work. And so when I get there, Joe had the bunk bedroom because I always get the freaking bunk bedroom.
Why?
I don't know. Well, he was the single one at the time because he was the only person, even though I was coming. It's a whole thing, whatever.
Okay.
Anywho, they had been playing hide and seek, and our room had storage, like crawl space storage.
Great hiding spot.
And so they had undone all of the coverings for the crawl space storage, but didn't put it back. And so we had to sleep in this room. And how it relates to wolves is because Liam Neeson was in a movie called The Grey. And Joe decided at 2 a.m. that he really wanted to watch scenes from The Grey, which is a creepy movie, in the room that had all the crawl spaces open.
I'm assuming The Grey has a wolf in it.
It's all about wolves.
Okay.
Liam Neeson fights wolves.
Oh.
It's actually a really, really good movie, but it was not what I wanted to see in the crawl space room.
Yeah. I could see that. But it's wolves. They're outside.
It was still very creepy.
Maybe if you were in a tent, that would be worse.
Probably. It's a really good movie, though. It's not scary.
You say that about a lot of things. Also, I am very eager for you to go see that one movie that you're checking out first before I see it.
Which one?
The one with Channing Tatum, and he's like a billionaire on an island.
Oh, yeah. What's that one called again? And
I-
when does it coming out?
Don't Blink or something like that. It's coming out soon.
Okay.
And oh my God, it looks so good. But I need you to watch it first.
Okay.
Need you to
I will watch it first.
filter it.
Of course.
I think it's going to be more, what do you call it, thriller?
Yeah.
Than
horror.
scary.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a good
Psychological thriller.
mystery.
Oh.
I don't want like a Shutter Island type shit. That's not a good thriller for me.
I'll just count. Yeah.
If it's
I'll come back with good reviews.
if it's like Knives Out but a little scarier,
Ooh, that might be what it is.
that's okay.
okay.
Because it's like mystery but like dark mystery. I can do that.
All
Maybe.
right. I'll come back with tons of notes.
And you'll have to know it really well so that like if something's coming, you
Oh my
can
God.
tell me so that you're like, okay, something's about to pop out. Close your eyes. And
I'll
your
be the
ears.
annoying person in the theater, like, okay, at this movie marker, jump scare, tell Mackenzie to hide.
Honestly, that's all I'm asking.
All right, on it. All right, best of all, in these mountain ranges, you'll have this unspoiled wilderness mostly to yourself, even in summer. The nearest town, Stanley, is a frontier outpost of fewer than 100 people, and herds of RVs largely bypass these parts. Here you can spend an afternoon outdoors and see more wildlife than people, a recipe for a rare restorative trip.
Sounds like it was written by a serial killer.
It does.
Come out to these woods that no one ever goes to.
You'll see so much wildlife, but no people.
Yeah.
Archaeologists recently made a huge discovery in Idaho.
That was what was cracking me up when I was editing I said huge on accident when I was supposed to say large.
Oh,
And we have that whole thing.
huge.
Huge.
A blade-like tool made of rock. What's the big deal? It turns out the blade is more than 13,500 years old, proving that people have lived in the area at least a few thousand years longer than experts previously thought. That's wild.
That's cray.
Idaho can be divided into 3 major geographical regions. The Rocky Mountains region rises across the north and the center of the state. It includes Bora Peak, the state's highest point at an often snowy 12,662 feet, as well as the Panhandle in the narrow northernmost part of the state. In our words, the Spout.
The spout.
See, they called it a panhandle too, though.
Yeah, but notice I said panhandle.
Yep. Yeah, because it's a spout.
Because it's a spout.
This region also has deep river-cut canyons and glacial trenches. This includes Hell's Canyon, the deepest gorge in North America. It's even deeper than the Grand Canyon. The Columbia Plateau spreads across the southern part of the state. Volcanic eruptions that occurred between 15,000 and 2,000 years ago made this area almost entirely flat with a few mountains. The Basin and Range Province lies southeast Idaho with valleys with grassy plateaus.
You correct yourself when you're right. You know that?
I know.
Okay.
The Bison and Range Province lies in...
Basin.
Why do I always say that?
I don't know. You must have said it right the first time or else I wouldn't have caught it.
I did.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see when I listen to it. Like, I don't know if...
Oranges.
Oranges and origins.
It's like, bitch, you said oranges.
I listened to that back like 3 or 4 times.
Even the text on Altitude said oranges.
I know. I know.
I almost told you to go back and listen to the state facts because they were just so funny. We're hilarious. I don't care what people say.
Yeah.
We're fucking hilarious, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just need you to start cursing a little bit more.
Sometimes I do.
I know.
My friend said that when we were talking about Blue Ridge and I was cursing a lot. He was like, it was so weird to hear you do all those words.
You're one of those people that it only happens when you're really pissed.
Yeah. Or adding a little sprinkle.
Or you're drunk.
Yeah.
Then it happens too. That's also how I know is all of a sudden flip of the tongue. Okay. Someone's feeling good.
Oh, hello. It also contains part of the fertile Bear River Basin and some high ridges. Idaho has the largest stand of western white pines in North America, and it's also home to the world's tallest western white pine, 219 feet. taller than Cinderella's castle at Disney World. Idaho produces 72 types of gemstones, including rare star garnets, amethysts, rubies, and diamonds. The state is also known for mining silver, zinc, lead, and travertine, a type of metal.
Marble.
Idaho's famous potatoes have inspired some weird treats. Made with vanilla ice cream that's coated in cacao.
No.
Some people say it weird.
Why?
Because I don't know. I've heard it be like cacao before.
I would have been like, is that like a cross between a bird and a cow? Like a cacao, but a cacao?
So it's coated in cocoa and topped with whipped cream. Ice cream potatoes look like baked potatoes with sour cream. I don't know if I would eat that. I don't like things that look like one thing and are actually something else.
There are some great things that like fries dipped in ice cream, delicacy. A baked potato?
Well, it's not a baked potato. It's vanilla ice cream with chocolate and whipped cream. So it looks...
Oh, I thought these bitches were putting ice cream on top of a baked potato.
No, it looks like a baked potato. So as you're eating it, it's ice cream, then it's sweet, but it looks like a baked potato.
Oh, that is so much better. Holy shit. I was like, who the fuck wants to put ice cream on top of their potato?
That sounds disgusting.
I was like, I loved a good, fry dip.
Right.
Ugh, I wouldn't drizzle my ice cream on
crazy.
the fries. Oh my God. Whew. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. So much. Oof. Okay.
But this one might be different. I don't know. And one candy company makes a treat called the Idaho Spud. It's a marshmallow. Oh no, we're still okay. It's a marshmallow covered in chocolate and coconut. So yeah, they're doing a lot of things that look like potatoes but aren't potatoes.
Got it.
Yeah. There was this one lady I saw on like Facebook or Instagram, because it wouldn't have been TikTok.
It was definitely Facebook. Because it wasn't Instagram either.
Her son wouldn't eat normal food. This is a super parent issue. Like, she is not a great mom. But anywho, that's not the point. He wouldn't eat anything that wasn't sugar. And the school was like, you can't let your kid just eat this. Like, he needs to eat nutritional food.
Correct.
So she made candies to look like burgers and like steaks and potatoes and things like that. So he would bring it to school and it would look like all of these healthy meals, but it's just straight up sugar. So it looked good. I was like, that's convincing. Like, I would think that the kid is eating like a potato, but no, it's all like ice cream and candy and stuff.
That's just lazy parenting.
It's bad parent. Well, she's like, my son won't eat it if it's not sugar. It's like, because you let him.
Right. Like, that's what I never understand with parents, is that they'll like talk about something their kid did. And I'm like, you realize you're in charge of them, right?
But I will say, Mackenzie, and I don't have kids, so we're coming at this from
I'm a teacher. Don't even.
But still, there are some things where like you do need to be the parent in the situation. If they're not going to eat anything that's not sugar, you need to make them eat stuff that's not sugar.
Right. Just like when parents come in, they're like, I don't know why kids are acting this way. Who the fuck raised them? You did.
Right.
Stop complaining about your own work.
Right.
That is my only thing. That is just my biggest. I'm like, you did that. You know, yes, I get some circumstances out of your control.
But for the most part.
But for the most part, any user.
Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve in central Idaho feels like a lunar walk, but it's actually a massive dried lava flow that formed over thousands of years. The 8 eruptions that created the lava field took place about every 2,000 years, and it's about time for another one since this volcano is dormant, not dead. I started the dishwasher before you came over, not really thinking about it, so it's doing its little noisy thing.
Sounds like someone's peeing.
No, just the train. When I was getting my teeth done, I don't know if I talked about this. I really like my oral hygienist. She's really cool. I want to be friends, but I don't know how to like ask without it being weird. But anywho, that's not the point, because I feel like we're very intimate because she looks in my mouth. But
I can see where it might be awkward to be like, hey, you want to hang out?
right. But I really like her. So we were talking one time about Pompeii, and I was like, okay, so that just randomly erupted one day, right? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, aren't people afraid that it could happen again?
Probably.
So I don't know if I would want to go visit because it could happen again.
Well, we also have that problem in like fucking Montana. So.
I know, which is so scary.
I mean,
so that's why with this one,
Hawaii,
yet another volcano that's just dormant and not dead.
Well, okay, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure Pompeii was right at the fucking bottom.
Of what?
Of the volcano.
Okay.
Like, I think it was like not as far back as it should be.
But still, it happened so quickly. And so that's what's scary with volcanoes that are dormant and not dead, that it could just happen so quickly.
Yes, well, that is the problem with anything that happens earthwise, like earthquakes.
That's scary too.
But now we know more. We can say it's not dead, it's dormant, keeping an eye on things, coming up with futuristic ways to make sure that people who do live in the area can be as protected as possible for a relatively unpredictable event.
Oh,
Science.
scary.
Still very scary. I would never live by a volcano. Don't get me wrong. No. I wouldn't even live close. I'm pretty much have decided, like, as much as I would love to be able to get out and live somewhere else, I'm like, I cannot think of a single place that has non-catastrophic events.
Which we've talked about multiple times.
Correct.
About how Virginia's just kind of in the sweet spot.
Yeah. Like, we get some bad shit sometimes.
But not nearly as bad as other stuff.
Yeah. So, and I would rather be in a place where it's more atmospheric kind of things, because I feel like it's a little bit easier to predict.
Yeah.
Versus a place like California where it's earthquakes.
You can't tell. Yeah.
You don't know when that's coming. Because you can't see below the earth.
You can't see? We just can't see?
Shout out to all the brave people on the West Coast. What's spooky to you pouring, Lauren?
And I'm just going to jump right into this one.
Please.
So is it just...
Great jumping. Try again. Get two tries. We'll take your best score the second time.
Thank you. It was just a typical day on August 26, 1979 for a family out at Buffalo Cave near Dubois, I think it's Dubois, Idaho and Clark County. Clark County is a very small town in eastern Idaho with fewer than 870 residents.
Wow. So Frenchy.
I know. Once these caves have been known as the Civil Defense Cave, the ancient lava tubes. They have been an important resource during the Cold War, designated as bomb shelters as they are 1,000 feet deep.
Damn.
Have since become a family excursion that offers easily accessible caves. They were having a nice day searching for arrowheads when they stumbled upon something horrifying.
Who? This family?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the cave, they found the headless torso of a young man with some tattered clothes remaining. He had been wrapped in burlap and was buried in a shallow 18-inch grave. It was at first believed to be a hard-drinking shepherd from Montana named John, but with no head, not much was able to be done, so the investigation stalled.
And, like, it was full-body torso, not, like, decomposed.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been decomposed, but...
Slightly, right. What year is this again?
That was in 1979.
Okay.
Then, just 11 years later, on March 30th, 1991, in that same cave, a girl exploring the cave systems found a...
She found the head!
No. She found a mummified human hand. Obviously, the authorities came in and started excavating the cave, finding 2 arms and 2 legs nearby, also wrapped in burlap. Volunteers came in and started combing the cave to try to find...
Scavenger hunt for bones.
I know. So yeah, that's what the volunteers are doing. They're trying to find anything of note. Nothing was found except the skeleton of an ostrich that had once escaped from a nearby farm. But overall...
I was going to say, an ostrich in Idaho?
But overall, nothing else had been found.
No head.
No head. Now, authorities had a torso, arms, and legs, so they turned to the help of a forensic team from Idaho State University to try to get any information they could from the remains found.
Do they have hands or feet or not yet? Or not?
I think they do.
Like, when you say arms, is it like arm plus hand?
At least one hand, because the girl found a mummified hand.
Okay.
So we at least have one hand.
Right, okay.
Not sure about the other hand or the 2 feet. I think we do have them, though.
Okay.
It was quickly determined that the body had been in the cave for at least 6 months, but could have also been there for 10 years or more. But with the lack of a head, little was able to be determined about the cause of death or even the identity of the body.
Did they know that the arms and legs were part of the torso?
I think so.
Okay.
I think
so they at least made that connection.
Yeah, to make that connection. But they were able to determine that the body had been dismembered by a variety of sharp tools, perhaps making it easier for the killer or killers to hide the remains. But with nothing else, the bones were put into storage where they were more or less forgotten.
Now, you gotta wonder, did the person know which sharp tools would work for each part, or do you think they would try one out, it was too hard, and so they'd use something different? Like,
I'm gonna think that one.
I would like to think that one.
I would like to think that one, too.
Because the first one is scary.
I know.
Unless it's like a butcher, then I feel like they would probably know. Still scary.
Or a surgeon.
That too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was around this time that Sheriff John Clements joined the force and started looking into the unsolved mysteries that Clark County had. This is when he came upon the case of the Buffalo Cave torso.
Okay. So 11 years later is when the other body parts were found. Okay.
11 years later. So we find the first body parts in 1979.
But they hadn't dated it yet.
No.
Okay.
They hadn't done anything to it yet. Because there was no head, so they couldn't really do anything. And then in 91, they found the hand, which led to the arms and legs.
So how were they able to say the 6 months to 10 years part? You don't know.
No, we don't really go into that. And then they couldn't really figure anything out, so they put it in storage.
Okay.
Don't know how long it was in storage for. Didn't have dates, but it was in storage for a
So
while.
in their minds right now, they're just thinking, oh, we just found a bunch of arms and legs.
That belonged to the other torso. But they didn't know if the arms and legs had come after. So if they if they had been disposed with the torso in 79.
I see.
Or
if
if
it's two
they-
separate people.
No, they know it's of the same guy, but they don't know.
If the torso was there and then 11 years later they dumped the other
Right,
ones.
right.
Okay. Interesting. That's like forgetting, like when we were talking about the Old Bay. That's like forgetting you have something.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're going through it and you're like, oh, fuck, I have
Oh
these
my
arms
God,
and
this is
legs.
still
I
here?
need to get rid of them. Like, what the fuck?
So Sheriff Clemens reached back out to ISU, Idaho State University, which piqued the interest of Kira Stoll, a forensic anthropologist who had recently joined the university just a few months prior. She invited Clemens to the university, where she explained all of the advancements that had come about in their field since the case went cold.
And this
all
is
those years ago.
91.
This is after 91, because it went more cold in 91.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So he's coming
this
back
is years
to it.
later.
Okay.
Yeah,
got
this
it.
is years later. It has already been a cold case at this point.
Yeah.
Over the subsequent years, Kira Stoll, anthropology students, and staffers worked on the case. Experts from the FBI and Smithsonian Institution were also recruited to help.
Bones.
Yeah. Stoll used a software program called ADBOU, ADBOU.
Probably stands for something.
It does, but it didn't tell me what it was. But
What is it? ADBOU? ADB.
Anthropological Database Bones or Unknown.
There you go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So it automates the process of converting skeletal measurements into age estimates.
So it's probably age data.
Maybe. What did I say at first?
I don't know.
We don't know. Using this program, Stoll was able to determine that the man was most likely in his mid to late 30s, and that with 95% accuracy, he had been between 5'6" and 6'2".
That is so amazing to me that like our bones
Can tell so much.
can tell so much.
I know.
Like obviously, yes, the whole body is going to tell a lot more, but like the things that you can find out at least race, approximate age, approximate height.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
They were able to determine that he had reddish brown hair.
How
and
do you know that?
I don't know.
What?
And was of European descent.
Well, I know how you can figure that out. Well, I don't know how you can figure that
Yeah.
out. I just know that it has been.
Somehow this program was
Damn.
able to, help figure that out. And then they made the wild discovery that the body was over 100 years old.
What?
Stoll gave
And
it.
the torso?
Yeah.
The whole thing?
Mhm.
The whole king caboodle?
Mhm.
100 years old?
Yup.
What?
I know.
Holy shit.
So Stoll gave this information to the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. This is a database that the University of North Texas Health Service Center manages. It's also known as NAMIS. It was launched in 2007, and it contains details on over 10,500 missing persons cases and over 9,800 unidentified bodies. Over the years, it has resolved more than 380 cases in which victims' names were unknown for months, years, or even decades.
Would that work for something that old, though? Because they
put it into the system so that if any matches did come up, they now had someone to match it to.
do you think like this system has like, because I'm sure you could have reported someone missing 100 years ago.
You could have,
But
yeah.
would it be in that database? Like, would someone have put it over?
I don't know. That's
like,
a good
that's
question.
kind of like what I'm thinking is that like, I get it, do all you can to figure it out. But if it's 100 years old, like, what are the
Right.
chances you're going to find
No idea.
something?
So the remains of the Buffalo Cave John Doe, as he had been named, remained a mystery until about 2020, when ISU and Clark County authorities reached out to the DNA Doe Project.
Oh,
The DNA Doe Project is a nonprofit organization that uses DNA data to identify John and Jane Does in hopes of returning their remains to their families.
never mind. Intrusive thought. I don't need to ask it. I was about to ask you who came up with Jane and John Doe. Like, why those
That
names?
is relevant.
But why those names?
I don't know.
Exactly. It's not that relevant.
Well, it is relevant. We just don't know the answer. The DNA was given to experts from Othram, which is a technology company focused on forensic DNA sequencing. They analyzed the sample that had been taken from the remains and then used that information to build a genealogical tree. So like
Okay.
a genealogical
Yeah.
family tree.
Yeah.
This whole effort was headed by Lee Brigham Redgrave, a forensic genealogist with DNA Doe Project. And she's a woman, which I think is so cool.
They usually are. I feel like most stories, when they talk about using genealogical data,
It is usually women
it always ends up being a woman.
because they're so smart.
Curious creatures.
Yes. So this
We know how to ask questions to get more information too, unlike men.
Ding, ding, ding. This genealogical tree was huge, with over 31,730 individuals who may have had a connection to this John Doe's DNA.
Is that normal for something 100 years old?
No. Through this tree and a ton of research, they were able to determine that the Buffalo Cave John Doe was a descendant from pioneers who had come from Utah with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
LSD, motherfuckers.
LDS.
Whatever. They need to take some LSD.
And what's so funny is in my notes, I actually have it as LSD Church. I just fixed it.
See, you're getting a little dyslexic too.
So they determined that this John Doe's likely grandfather was a polygamist with 4 wives, meaning that his cousins and other relatives numbered in the hundreds. Quote, he ended up having a lot of matches that were first cousins 3 times removed, which is very unusual in this type of scenario.
Unless you're sleeping with each other.
Brigham Redgrave said. One by one, we eliminated certain candidates and kept coming back to him. So the team went through news articles, gravestone information, and other records to try to find information from all the DNA candidates. This is when they started to notice one guy whose life information didn't seem to add up. And this man's gravestone was actually a cenotaph, which is just a stone with a name on it with no body buried underneath. Which
So,
makes it all the more interesting that there's a body found, this guy has a grave, but there's no body buried there.
Is that like if someone goes missing and then they're declared dead?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. This man, the body in the cave, was Joseph Henry Loveless. So who is this man? And I thought it was funny because, like,
He's Joseph Henry Loveless.
our coworker came over and she saw Loveless on my screen and she got really excited. And then she saw that it was Joseph Henry Loveless and she lost all interest and walked away. So Joseph Henry Loveless was born on December 3rd, 1870 at Payson, in which was then the Utah Territory, to parents Joseph Jackson Loveless from Indiana and Sarah Jane Scriggins from Massachusetts. It seems that he was one of 8.
Such pioneer names. Sarah Jane.
And he was one of 8. The Loveless parents were both early Mormon pioneers from the LDS movement. As he aged, Loveless was of average height and build, but his only, quote, peculiarity of the face is the absence of eyebrows, as local newspapers said at the time.
Interesting.
He married twice, the first time to Harriet Jane Savage. With her, he had 1 child, but she divorced him in 1904 for abandonment. After that, Loveless became a bootlegger, counterfeiter, and general outlaw in Idaho.
As in, he abandoned them?
Yeah.
Got it.
He abandoned them.
Okay.
So she brought him to court, divorced him, took custody of the child.
Fair.
At some point, Joseph Loveless met and married a woman named Agnes Octavia Caldwell. With her, he had 4 children. In 1913, Loveless was arrested for bootlegging and twice in 1914 for selling alcohol illegally in counties where it was prohibited. This is when he, quote, made one of his many escapes by sawing through the jail bars at the jail he was being held at.
Oh my God, did he cut off his own limbs? I thought you were doing that because I was right. But normally when I say things and you're like, just wait.
Oh.
That's what I thought you were about to do.
No.
So I was like, he what? I was like, oh my God, I was kidding. But he did?
No, he did not.
Okay.
This would lead to him being known for his ability to escape detainment. In March of 1916...
See, you're not making a case for me to believe that he didn't cut off his own arms.
He didn't. In March of 1916, he somehow stopped the train that was escorting him to jail and fled. He was recaptured and sent back to jail where he escaped again.
How do you stop a train?
I don't know. That's what they're saying. They're like, this dude was able to stop a train that was taking him to jail. Like, how did he do it? I don't know, but he's incredible. It was believed, and researchers soon learned, that Agnes may have even been an accomplice in some of Loveless's crimes, going by the alias Ada Smith. In 1916, Loveless and his wife Agnes were living in a tent on the edge of Dubois, Idaho, where Loveless was working odd jobs around the railroad yards. On the night of May 5th, 1916, Agnes and Loveless had gotten into a loud argument. Neighbors would even report that they had heard it that evening. Then the next morning, May 6th, Agnes's body was found next to the tent she shared with her husband and children, her head nearly severed and, quote, hacked to pieces with an axe. The newspapers quickly reported on this murder, saying that a man named Walt Cairns had committed the atrocious murder.
What? Who's he?
A photo, I'll get to it. A photo was displayed of Walt Cairns, but the neighbors said that they knew this man, but they didn't know him as Walt Cairns. It was soon revealed that Walt was Joseph Henry Loveless.
Wait. Pause. I'm sorry. You're going too fast, and now I'm confused.
Okay. Newspaper report that Walt killed Agnes. Okay.
Why did they say Walt?
Because that's the name they had for this man.
Okay.
So they had the name Walt for this man.
Right.
The neighbors said they knew this man, but his name wasn't Walt.
It was
soon revealed that Walt was Henry, Joseph Henry Loveless, after his son identified him in a photo. So his son sees the photo and is like, that's the murderer? That's not Walt, that's my dad. That's Joseph Henry Loveless.
Be your own family sometimes.
The name Walt Cairns soon turned out to be one of the many aliases that Loveless went by. During his criminal career, Loveless also went by the name Charles Smith and other variations of his real and fake names. Many, many variations, many
Yeah.
different sounds, spelling, all of that. It was then determined.
I don't know.
It was also. I just clicked what you said.
He said there's different variations. So I was trying
Not
one
of
out.
his. Well, yeah, I guess of his real name. Oh my God. It was then determined that on May 5th, 1916, Joseph allegedly murdered his wife Agnes with an axe while she was asleep in bed. To make matters worse, he did so in front of 2 of their children. Loveless was arrested and sent to St. Anthony's jail. Agnes's funeral took place on May 16th, 1916. At the funeral, one of her sons was quoted saying, quote, "Papa never stayed in jail very long, and he will soon be out."
Oh?
And their son was right. Only 2 days later, on March 18th, 1916, around 5:30 p.m., Loveless broke out of his prison cell by sawing through the prison cell bars while all of the
How
cell
does
guards.
he keep getting access to shit that can saw a metal bar?
He hides it in his shoe.
Ow!
Probably in the sole of the shoe is not poking him.
Oh. Like, that's uncomfortable. That's sharp. You're going to cut off your
He
toes.
probably hides it in a way that's not going to cut off his toes.
Just, you got to have something pretty durable in order to cut a metal bar.
I know.
And so I'm thinking saw, and if a saw is in his shoe,
No.
ow.
It was something you could hide in his shoe.
Okay.
So apparently he did this while all of the cell guards were out eating dinner.
And no one ever decided to check his shoes?
I guess maybe they weren't that strict in prison in the 1916s.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. It is highly speculated that Loveless had help by a person or multiple people from outside of his prison cell.
I was going to say, you cannot make this many escapes without help.
No. His wanted poster after his escape went like this, quote, "Wanted for murder. Walt Cairns, age about 40 years, height about 5 feet, 8 or 9 inches, weight about 165 pounds, dark brown hair."
Tiny.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, that is very tiny.
He's a tiny man.
Yeah.
Probably just slipped through the bars.
Like Ted Bundy.
That
He lost weight and slipped through the air ducts.
nice. I
Mhm.
mean, not nice, but
Yeah.
yeah.
They thought he was on a hunger strike, I think. No, he was just waiting until he could get skinny enough.
Kind of clever.
All right, dark brown hair, slightly gray around ears, eye bluish brown, medium complexion, has little or no eyebrows. It's like really a known fact about this man.
Is it like super fair hair?
I don't know.
That's
They didn't even say like fair hair. They just said no eyebrows.
I wonder if that's a choice or not.
I don't know. I'll be the eyebrowless killer.
I mean,
Or
eyebrows, eyebrowless.
Mm,
Can see it.
all the lisses. Small scar over right eye, tattoo of star on right hand between thumb and index finger, also tattoo of anchor, same place on left hand.
Sounds like a really big poster.
It was, yeah.
It's got a lot of details on it.
It does. He wore a light colored hat, brown coat, red sweater, blue overalls over black trousers,
Mm.
which I thought overalls were like pants as well, but they're over black trousers, so I don't know.
I was just about to say, it sounds like he's wearing a lot, and that sounds hot.
It was May in Idaho. I don't know what the weather is there in May.
Me neither.
Continuing on with the poster. Walt
Oh my God,
Cairns
still
is supposed to have murdered Miss Agnes Loveless with an axe in Dubois, Idaho, night of May 5th, 1916. He was arrested and taken to St. Anthony, Idaho, where he sought out of the county jail on the evening of May 18th, 1916. So it's just pretty much saying,
Is there a reward?
here's a guy. Nope. He's just letting you know this guy is wanted for murder.
Not very incentivizing.
Investigators believe that he died shortly after his escape at the age of 46. So that brings us back to Loveless's body being found all those years later in the cave. So interesting note, his final wanted poster after his jailbreak described him as wearing some of the same clothes that were found on his remains. So on his wanted poster, like I said, he was wearing light colored hat, brown coat, red sweater, blue overalls. The body found was wearing a red sweater, black trousers, with a white pinstriped collar shirt, which was not listed on the wanted poster.
Mhm.
So interesting that maybe he got new clothes.
Maybe he changed.
Maybe. Quote, "It's blown everyone's mind," Bingham Redgrave said of the investigation. "The really cool thing, though, is that his wanted poster from his last escape is described as wearing the same clothing that he was found in, so that leads us to put his death date at likely 1916. Even though his body was identified, his case remains open with the Clark County Sheriff's Office as of January 2020, as it is still unknown how he died or who killed him."
It was one of his kids. I bet you. Tired of his dad's shit.
Maybe. I mean, 2 of them watched him
Correct.
kill them all.
And then one snitched.
I mean, you're not wrong.
He told authorities like he should.
Yeah, do the right thing. But this caused Lee Bingham Redgrave, our forensic genealogist, to speculate that Loveless did die in 1916. Samantha Blatt, a bioarchaeologist at Idaho State University, believes that Loveless may have been killed by his deceased wife's family as revenge for her murder. Yep.
Could write these myself.
Quote, in all likelihood, Henry had been murdered and transported to the cave not long after he escaped, making his post-mortem interval, the time between his death and discovery of his body, as long as 63 years, Redgrave said. This case has been historic in more than one meaning of the word. Clark County Sheriff Bart May says they have no suspects, but he thinks he knows the motive behind Loveless's murder. Quote, back in 1916, it was the Wild West up here, and most likely the locals took care of the problem.
Probably.
Interesting note, Loveless's head has never been found. This could be symbolic because the head is the same part of the body of Agnes's that Loveless allegedly hacked to pieces.
So maybe they hacked it to pieces.
That's what people are thinking.
And it got eaten by gur animals.
Did you say gur animals?
Yeah. My dad does that sometimes.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Interesting.
How are the gur animals?
In the end, the DNA Doe Project reached out to an 87-year-old man who lived in California. From the family tree they constructed, they believed this man to be Loveless's grandson. He agreed to take a DNA test, which confirmed that the remains in the cave were, in fact, his grandfather's, Joseph Henry Loveless.
That's like close. I was thinking like you were going to say fifth cousin.
Mm-mm.
Grandfather. Well, I mean, I guess 87, yeah.
And so they were like, well, the family never knew about his sordid past, and now they do.
Yeah, by the way, your grandfather kind of sucked dick.
Right. Yeah, so that was a short one, but I thought it was very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Because like just in 2020, because I was reading articles before 2020 where they still had no idea who this torso was.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, tests are being done on it. Like, you know, we're going to get to the case. And then in 2020, they're like, we figured out who it is.
When I watch Forensic Files, or really any sort of true crime, and, you know, the people who are talking about like, oh, and this many times, you know, years later, thank God that they saved it, or thank God that they, you know, handled it properly so that, you know, or they thought to themselves, oh, well, maybe someone could do something with this in the future, or whatever it was that preserved the evidence of some of these cases that we're now able to close because DNA has gotten so much better.
I know, it's wild.
Cray.
But yeah,
Very nice.
This one was interesting. Short and sweet.
I like it.
Thank you.
I like it a lot.
All right, Mackenzie, what story you got?
Sad.
Okay, bring us down.
Sad. Bad. He might get mad.
Egad.
Nice. Those of you that live in Idaho, you most likely would have heard about this story at some point. Because it's not old. It's pretty recent. Within the last almost 20 years. But I'd never heard of it before.
Shocking.
And it's, I know. And it's crazy. Especially because the people are so young.
Okay.
So, picture yourself sitting in a courtroom in 2007 as part of a jury for a first-degree murder trial. The prosecution is going to play a 30-minute video recording that is said to prove without a doubt that the young teen currently on trial is indeed one of the perpetrators of the crime.
Interesting.
The video starts off showing a typical crowded high school hallway in early 2006. After a few seconds, the scene changes and it's all black except for maybe a couple of red lights. I don't know what they actually were. That's when you hear a young male voice say, quote, "We're here." He goes on to say that they are in his friend's car and the current date and time of the recording, September 22nd, 2006 at 9:53 p.m.
Wait, hold on. So it's a video, not an audio recording, or it's an audio recording?
It's a video, but you can't see them.
Okay.
Because it's so dark out.
Okay.
So it basically is audio, but it's technically a video.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
And what's the date again?
September 22nd, 2006 at 9:53 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. The voice continues on and says, quote, "Unfortunately, we have the grueling task of killing our two friends, and they are right in that house just down the street."
What?
Because of the video quality, you can't see the street that they're on or even the car that they're sitting in.
Oh.
Like you can literally see nothing. You just hear their voices. Then you hear a second voice, which is also of a young male, most likely the same age as the first voice. And the second voice says, quote, "We just talked to them. We were there for an hour." The first voice continues, quote, "We checked out the house and we know there are lots of doors. There are lots of places to hide. I unlocked the back door, so it's unlocked. Now we just got to wait and we're nervous right now, but we're ready." Disclaimer. Really fucking dark.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
if you're a sensitive soul,
That's me.
yeah, you don't get a choice. So,
Oh, God. When you have to take a deep breath, I'm like, oh, bracing for it.
it's It's a bit of a mind fuck a little bit. Just, yeah.
Okay.
Because you're just like, I can't believe this actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
As he's talking, his friend starts turning up the music louder. The friend says, we're listening to the greatest rock band. You can hear a Pink Floyd band playing and a stereo light up showing the track being played. I don't know what the song was, I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
The first guy cuts off his friend and says, quote, we've been waiting for this for a long time. When his friend continues what he was saying, he says, Pink Floyd, before we commit the ultimate crime of murder. So it's like we're listening to the greatest rock band. His friend cuts him off, and then he comes back in and finishes with Pink Floyd before we commit the ultimate crime of murder.
Okay.
The first guy ends the clip by saying, stay tuned.
Ew.
Suddenly, the scene changes, and you can clearly tell they are driving on a road at night. The date of the recording is still the same, but now the time says 11:31 p.m.
So it's been about 2 hours.
An hour and a half.
Oh.
Because it was 9:53.
Oh, 53. I was like, it was 9:35.
Yep.
Mix those up.
Yep. You hear the frantic voice of the first guy saying, quote, we just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke. You hear his friend say, I'm shaking. The first guy just keeps going on as if he didn't even hear his friend speak. Quote, I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear.
Oh my God.
He then says, dude, I just killed Cassie. His friend replies, oh my God. You hear both boys breathing heavily. The first guy sounds terrified when he says, fuck, that felt unreal. I mean, it went by so fast. Then his friend cuts him off and yells, shut the fuck up. We have to get our act straight.
What the heck?
The first guy agrees and says that they should go buy their movie tickets, and then the clip ends.
Are they trying to give themselves like an alibi?
This is exactly what the jury heard at both the trial of Brian Draper and Tori Adamick. The two 16-year-old high school juniors were charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder of their classmate, Cassie Jo Stoddart.
Okay, sounds open and shut.
Yeah, obviously, we know how this one ends.
What?
But it's the meat in the middle that you're like, holy shit, I can't believe two fucking 16-year-olds did this.
The meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes.
Or like we said, the meat and bones.
Yeah. Be more accurate.
Oh, God.
Cassie Jo Stoddart, sorry if I'm saying her last name wrong. I don't know if it's Stoddart, was born December 21st, 1989 in Pocatello, Idaho. When she was younger, Cassie and her older sister Christy and her younger brother Andrew were partially raised by their grandparents. Most of what I was able to find about Cassie specifically comes from her brother Andrew. Sadly, most of the sources I looked at only focused on the crime and shared little about the victim.
Yeah.
Andrew told the Associated Press in 2016, quote, Cassie was always the headstrong one out of all of our siblings. She was the one I always looked up to, even though she wasn't the oldest one. The older sister, Christy, was 7 years older, and only a year and a half separated Andrew and Cassie.
Aw.
He told the AP, quote, me and her were always into the same stuff and going to the same places. We did everything together, even though we would argue and stuff, just like other siblings. He goes on to say, quote, she was really a role model. She was really smart, doing good, and had a lot going for her. See, I just pictured Jared saying this about you.
Aww.
So that's why I thought of you guys.
Aww.
But hopefully
That's
not
actually
because
very
you've
sweet.
been murdered.
Yeah, not for this reason.
Hopefully just in
just
general.
Just because it's what he thinks generally
as
about
he's
me.
Describing you. That's what he would say. Andrew said Cassie loved drawing and music. Their mom had many of Cassie's drawings hung up on the wall, and Cassie had all of her favorite artists hanging up in her room. She was your typical teenage girl. Frank Contreras was Cassie's uncle and told the Idaho State Journal, quote, Cassie was a good girl. She didn't drink or use drugs, and she was a straight-A student. She was responsible. Again, describes you.
Pretty much.
Especially in high school.
Yeah, it was really goody-goody.
Especially comparatively to your brother.
Oh, my God. Well, I told you the other day we were playing a game with my mom and grandma about like, oh, what's the worst thing you've done? But they're saying all these things. I'm like, oh, mom or grandma. And then I'm like, I snuck out once at Mackenzie's house where mom knew where we were going.
Right, that we didn't even sneak out. We told her that we were going to do it, and we were like, well, we're going to pretend we're sneaking out so that we can have that experience.
I know.
How we're such losers.
But then I did tell about the creepy house that we went to that we thought the people like broke into. And then we
I
left.
didn't think that until way later. That's the thing. Is that,
I only thought it because after he told me what he had, the guy who messaged me later, what he had been in jail for, I was like,
that's why I feel like when I think back to our childhood, I'm like, we didn't really do any crazy things. But then I'm like, if I think hard enough, probably the things we did that we thought weren't that big of a deal probably were very much a big deal.
yeah.
So
Partying in fields, telling her parents we were sleeping at someone else's house.
Well, I never had to tell my mom that because it was my house.
That is true. God, I just keep thinking of all the random people's houses like, oh, I'm throwing a party at my friend's house in the woods. You want to come? Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
I had serious trust issues, though, so I never wanted to go to those.
Oh, we went to all of them. All of them.
But my thing is I didn't party at them because that was also, by the time we started going to those, I was also after I hit my head
And you were usually our driver.
because I had control issues.
Right. Full circle.
Yep. Any hooser.
Yep.
In the fall of 2006, Cassie would be starting her junior year of high school at Pocatello High School. The spring before, in Cassie's biology class, she met and sort of befriended Brian Draper and Tori Adamick.
Oh.
Draper later told Explore With Us in a recent 2024 interview, it has I didn't watch it. I read an article that quoted things from it, but it has 13 million views on it.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's him specifically is saying these things. And again, creepy. So he says, quote, what brought us together was that we had an assignment in biology class and we were assigned into groups. He goes on to share, quote, the greatest irony of all of this is that I was assigned to a table with my victim and with Tori at the same time. That's how we all became friends.
I hate that.
Right?
And Tori is a guy.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
The article I was reading said that that's how he addressed talking about Cassie, was he always said my victim.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Both boys were interested in films, particularly horror films, and even started recording and creating films of their own.
Oh, good.
They were particularly fascinated with the movie Scream.
I love those movies.
I know.
It's my favorite horror genre, horror film franchise.
Yeah. Bummer. It's okay. They quickly realized that life is not like the movies. Good. On the night of September 22nd, 2006, Cassie was house sitting for her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, in northeast Bannock County. The Contreras family was going out of town and hired Cassie to house sit and take care of their 3 cats and 2 dogs for the weekend.
Wow.
Around 6 p.m., Cassie's boyfriend, Matt Beckham, came over to hang out with Cassie while she was house sitting. A little bit later, Draper and Adamick arrived to watch a movie with the couple. Cassie gave a tour of the house to her friends before they all settled in the living room to watch Kill Bill Volume 2.
Okay.
The movie hadn't finished yet when Draper and Adamick announced that they were going to leave to watch a movie at their local movie theater instead. What Cassie and Matt didn't know was that before they had left, Draper had unlocked the basement door so that he and Adamick could re-enter the house undetected.
Oh. And what's so creepy is we used to do that at our friend's house so we could sneak out without her alarm going off.
Yeah, but she didn't do that.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it is creepy because we would keep it unlocked and I would always be scared that someone was going to sneak in, even though it was us sneaking out.
Yeah, well, now I'm going to be afraid that someone's going to come into my house and unlock my door.
Yeah.
From the inside.
Right, yeah. That's why you got to be paranoid like me and check all the locks.
Well, you're paranoid before. You're definitely going to be paranoid now.
Good. This is what I need. Okay, go on.
This is how I feel after I watch a scary movie. Just so you know.
I mean, Scream particularly would do that to you.
Sometime after leaving Cassie's uncle's house, Draper and Adamick returned to the neighborhood and parked down the street. This is the moment that we hear about at the beginning of the video recorded by Draper. You can hear the excitement in the boys' voices before they go into the house with the obvious intention of killing both their friends, Matt and Cassie.
Jeez.
That they hung out with.
Right. Who they were just with.
Yeah. They're someone they kept calling their friend.
Right.
Not seen in the video is when the boys got out of the car and put on costumes that consisted of dark clothing, gloves, and white painted masks. You can imagine that those white painted masks looked like they had blood coming out of the eyes. The boys quietly entered the house through the basement door. The couple was still watching TV in the living room. The boys started making loud noises in an attempt to lure Matt and Cassie to the basement.
Ugh.
When that was unsuccessful, they found a circuit breaker and turned off the power in the house, hoping this would lead the couple to come downstairs to check the breaker. This was also unsuccessful, so they turned some of the lights back on. As you can well imagine, at this point, Cassie was freaked out and had a very uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend, Matt, also noticed that one of the dogs kept staring down the basement stairs, periodically barking or growling.
This is like a horror movie.
They were inspired by one.
It's so creepy. I mean, the added effect of the dog.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Seeing that his girlfriend was terrified, Matt called his mom and asked if he could stay the night at the house with Cassie to help ease her mind. Unfortunately, Mom said no, but that Cassie could come to their house instead and she would drive her back in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Cassie denied the offer.
Well, because she's like, I'm dog sitting, you know.
She felt it was her responsibility to stay at the house like she was tasked with doing and to care for the animals.
I mean, I would have done the exact same thing.
I was thinking about it. I was like, probably I would have too.
Yeah.
So
I would have been like, I said I would dog sit, cat sit. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah. Around 10:30 p.m., Matt's mom arrived to pick him up, which left Cassie all alone in the house. Matt later said that he had called Adamek's cell phone to see where he and Draper ended up, but Matt said he could barely hear Adamek, who was whispering on the phone. He assumed the boys were in the movie like they had said they were going to.
Right.
In reality, they were still in the basement, and they had just heard Matt leave.
Oh, my God.
They tried the circuit breaker trick again, but it was unsuccessful. Again. Because unlike in the movies, most people don't go and check the scary thing out.
At that situation, I probably would have been like, love these pets, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, especially because they're like making noise and all that kind of good stuff.
Actually, yeah, if I had heard the noise, I think I would have left. I would have called my aunt and uncle and been like, here's the situation.
Yeah,
I'm gonna leave.
Exactly.
I'll call the cops. Someone can come check on it, but I'm not staying.
Yeah, like there was the questions as I went through this as to like, she already felt uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
Was it not enough ruckus for her to think that someone was in there?
Maybe.
You know? And
yeah.
like, did she not realize like when the lights went out that they didn't go out anywhere else?
Or it could have been like she hears a noise and there's 3 cats in the house.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
There's 3 cats and 2 dogs.
Right.
So she was probably nervous, but it doesn't seem like either one. I don't think if she truly felt like she was in danger that she would have stayed.
Right. Actually, you're probably right.
You know, I feel like she just had that like, ooh, this is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I don't know their house. Maybe the electricity flicker, you know, anything.
But you still don't go and check it out.
No, you never go do that.
And they're thinking that this is going to be just like their scary movie where like, oh, we'll do this and we'll lure them out.
Let me go check in my high heels.
Right.
Yeah.
No. In fact, it's probably because of those scary movies people don't go and check out what it is.
Right. Because they're like, this is how people die.
Right.
Oh, there's that one TikTok or wherever I saw it. And it's a dad. He's outside playing with his daughter and they hear a really loud boom. And she goes, what is that? He goes, I don't know, but get in the house. And she goes, Daddy, what do you think it is? He goes, I don't know. This is how people die. Get in the house. And they like run inside.
Run and ask questions later.
It's so funny.
So unfortunately, this did lead to the boys moving upstairs.
Oh.
Draper was armed with a dagger-type weapon, and Adamek had a hunting knife. The boys had gotten an older high schooler to purchase the knives for them at a pawn shop.
I mean, it is sounding like Scream with the white masks and the knives and the black outfits. Yeah.
The only thing they didn't do was call.
Yeah, what's your favorite scary movie?
Yeah. Proud of me for knowing that?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Draper opened and slammed a closet door at the top of the stairs to try and scare Cassie, who was still lying on the couch in the living room. After terrorizing her, like messing with her that someone was in the house, the boys attacked her, stabbing her 30 times, with 12 of the wounds identified as potentially fatal.
Oh my God.
And that brings us to the second clip in our video. We hear Draper in a panic about what they had done, and Adamek almost stoic and matter-of-fact about what needs to happen next. 2 days after the grisly murder, Cassie's 13-year-old cousin walked into the house and into the living room where she discovered Cassie's butchered body.
Oh my God.
Talk about trauma.
Oh my God.
The Contreras had returned from their trip to a house of horrors. Cassie's younger brother Andrew was staying at a friend's house at the time and was too young to have his license yet. I think he was like 15. He later told the AP, quote, I was trying to get a hold of my mom but couldn't. I wasn't sure what was going on. Eventually my friend's parents gave me a ride home, but nobody was there when I got there. They were all up at the house where it happened. He goes on to say, quote, my uncle came and picked me up and took me to the house. All the cops were outside. It was really surreal.
Oh my God.
Surrounded by crying neighbors, Andrew remembers one of them saying to his stepdad that he had to tell him. In between his sobs, his stepdad told him someone had did something terrible to his sister. Andrew recalls crumbling to the ground after hearing the news.
Ugh.
So when it comes to her parents, I know they're in the picture, but he had made that mention in the article of like being raised by their grandparents.
Oh, okay.
So
no, but I was wondering if you said like the stepdad.
Yeah.
So
and that's the thing that it was really hard to figure out the family dynamic because there's another place where they say boyfriend.
The mom's boyfriend?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Right.
They don't really go into, at least I couldn't find what it was like really at home.
Right.
I don't think Dad's in the picture. At least he's never mentioned. So I don't know. But then when I found the mom's find a grave, because she passed in 2022.
Oh.
I didn't see any mention of any husband or boyfriend or anything like that. It was just family.
Interesting.
Yeah. So bear with me. The police left no stone unturned in their investigation. They found fingerprints on the circuit breaker door in the basement where the lights had been messed with prior to the murder. And they had belonged to Cassie's mom's boyfriend, husband, whoever he was.
The fingerprints?
Yeah.
Oh.
When questioned, he told investigators that he had previously done electrical work at the Contreras residence a few months ago, and the family confirmed this statement. The boys were wearing gloves, so they wouldn't have left fingerprints.
Right.
They talked to Cassie's boyfriend because he was the last one to see her alive. He told police about the lights turning off and on when he was at the house. He also told them that he had left around 10:30, and his mom
corroborated
this and told police she had heard Cassie's voice from the house when she picked up her son. Matt also agreed to a polygraph test and passed it. He also told police that there were 2 other classmates that had been in the house early in the night, Brian Draper and Tori Adamick.
Oh, good.
I'm also thinking, dumbasses.
Right. Like, if you hadn't come, well, if they hadn't come over, they wouldn't have had the way to get into the house. But if they hadn't come over, they're not going to be suspects at all.
And yes, they originally planned to kill both of them, but one left.
Right.
Who can say that you were there?
Right. Yeah.
This is what happens when you commit a crime at 16.
Stupid boys.
Yes. When first questioned by police, the boys told authorities that they had gone for a movie. However, the movie theater employee denied ever seeing them there, and neither could talk about the movie they had claimed to have watched.
It's like, I'm glad that people are so bad at crimes because then they are able to get caught. But it's like, at the same time, if you're basing your entire alibi off of the fact that you saw a movie, read the movie review.
Right?
Read what it's about. Go see it a day or two beforehand.
Yes.
Know what the movie is about so you can talk about it.
And they didn't talk to them the next day. They had a few days in between when the police
to go
came
see the movie.
To go see the fucking movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway, not that we're trying to tell people how to get away
No,
with
no,
murder,
no, no, no,
but
no.
still,
No.
dumbasses.
We're just really grasping at how stupid they are.
Yes. Once confronted with said lie, Draper claimed that he and Adamick were breaking into cars. And he further alleged that they only lied to avoid getting in trouble. Murder? Carjacking or breaking into. I don't know. If I'm being accused of murder, I will gladly take the other crime that is way less serious. But maybe that's just me. I also don't plan on murdering anyone, so don't have to worry about it.
Good.
Investigators refused to believe this story and decided to make him take a polygraph test. But shortly before the procedure, Draper admitted to the crime. Cave like a caveman in a cave.
Did you write that in your notes? Okay.
So Draper told authorities that he and Adamick returned to the house that night to scare the victim. They first cut off the power and wore masks to disguise their identity. Things escalated when Adamick began stabbing Cassie. After confessing, Draper then led law enforcement officers to a stash of evidence they had buried in Black Rock Canyon area.
What evidence?
The stash of evidence. I promise I'm always going to get there.
I know.
The stash of evidence included multiple knives, a videotape, a partially burned book, gloves, and a few clothes and other things. Also, depending on the source you look at, the videotape was partially burned, but they used some sort of fancy technology to get the recording off of it.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So even though they tried to burn the evidence, they didn't burn it all the way.
Why would they make it if they were going to burn it? Is it because they wanted to make like a horror movie and then they were like, well, we can't have this get anywhere?
You know, there's a lot of questions that I have because the amount of shit that they say on this video, and I'm like, you keep talking to these people that are going to watch this video in the future, but yeah, you try to burn it.
Right.
And so I'm thinking maybe in my head, because it was hyped up so much and then it really happened, it's now more along the lines of, oh shit, we don't want to get caught.
Right.
So instead of hiding the video, if their houses were searched, they got rid of it altogether.
Okay.
So all of it's dumb.
Right.
The videotape had footage of Adamek and Draper planning the murder and also reacting to the murder afterwards. That's what these notes are for.
Oh, okay.
Draper and Adamek were arrested on September 27th, 2006, just 5 days after they killed Cassie Stoddart.
Oh my gosh.
They were charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. They were going to be tried separately, with Draper's trial starting in April 2007 and Adamek in June of that same year. Despite the boys being only 16, the state was trying them as adults.
Well, yeah, as they should.
Do an adult crime, do the adult time.
Mm-hmm.
At Draper's 6-day trial in April, jurors saw video footage of Cassie starting at the high school on the morning of the attack. So when you go through the video and you see the date,
Are they like filming her?
you see them at school and you see her and he's like talking to her. It's like, hey, Cassie, what's up? I'm
So
recording.
they've planned this for a while. Oh my God.
But yeah, and then it's very jarring to see her in the morning knowing what's going to happen to her that night.
Yeah.
Like
It always is with things like that, or like hearing 911 calls or something and knowing that
Yes.
like what happens, you know,
Yeah.
just like things like that when you know the outcome, but you know that at the moment you're watching it, they don't.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's, even though you know what ends up happening, because most of the video is of the two boys,
Mhm.
there's like other things that happen in there that you're like, oh, wow. And they didn't even know what was going to happen next.
Okay.
I'll get to it.
I'm sure you will.
It also shows Draper and Adamek discussing what appears to be a murder plan. The video was a centerpiece at both of their trials.
Mhm.
At both of their trials, the prosecution also showed the jury the interrogation tapes of each of them. During Adamek's interview, you hear him tell police that they left Cassie's house to burglarize cars and then they went back to his house. The investigators leave the room and return to ask Adamek if they ever left his house again. At this point, police already had a confession from Draper and had collected the evidence found at Black Rock Canyon.
Mhm.
Adamek said he and Draper did leave the house to get something to drink, and Draper also bought matches. He said they just got... this also... He then said that they got lost driving home
Okay.
and ended up in the Black Rock Canyon area.
Wild. Oh, one wrong turn really leads you far away.
Yeah, in a town that they've grown up in.
Right.
One detective said to him, quote, "The house of cards is falling." They tell Adamek they know he went back to the house where Cassie's body was found. The detective asks, quote, "Did you guys go in to pull a prank?" Adamek then asks for an attorney.
Oh.
He and his father leave the room to talk where they aren't being recorded.
I mean, like Mackenzie and I always say, get the attorney. But it's always when the people do get the attorney, it's like, you're guilty.
Yeah, especially this late in the game.
Yeah.
Adamek's defense said that the evidence that had been found at Black Rock Canyon showed that only one person had committed the crime and that it was Brian Draper. So they had found clothes and knives, and I think one of the gloves, I don't know if only one of the gloves had blood or they only tested one of the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
The investigators didn't test any of the blood on the different articles of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
The defense for him sent it out to be tested. And I guess the items they sent out were just the things that apparently Brian Draper was using, wearing, whatever.
Did they have not defensive wounds? Did they have like wounds on them?
It doesn't say.
Oh, okay.
Didn't say. Based on the Blitz attack
Mm-hmm.
and that there's two of them, I don't think
Right.
so.
Okay, because I don't know if like maybe one of them accidentally cut themselves during it or something like that, for why like if their blood could be mixed in with the blood.
Well, the thing was investigators never tested any of that.
Yeah,
It was
that's wild.
the defense attorney that got it tested to use for Tori Adamek's defense.
It's bold.
Which it's interesting because his family was able to get him lawyers versus the other guy had like a...
Court appointed.
Yeah. It's the two, it's very much he against he,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm still like trying to figure out who the actual ringleader is,
Okay.
you know, like, because we're never going to know fully what happened because they're both saying different things.
Right.
One's saying, well, he did it and he forced me, or
It's always that they forced me.
yeah. So I don't know. The DNA part, like I didn't find that anywhere. I found it on like a random website dedicated to getting this Adamek guy like free.
Oh.
Basically trying to put all the blame on Brian
Oh my gosh.
Draper. Which, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's a pretty good suspect for being kind of fucked up in the head, but so is the other guy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll get to it. Draper's interview looked a bit different. In his interview, Draper admits he and Adamek were present when Cassie was killed, but he denied stabbing her. The video also shows Draper in tears and speaking in hushed tones as he explained how they moved through the house, saying he believed they were playing a prank. So at this point, I'm like, the Draper guy, he's the one who was recording.
Right.
Is the emotional one.
Mm-hmm.
Versus this other guy is not very emotional. And yes, people deal with things different ways. People deal with their stress in different ways. But it's just very interesting to see this guy cave so fast versus the other guy was like, no, I want a lawyer.
Right.
And this guy, the moment they confronted him with even the smallest lie, he's like, oh, I did it.
It's also like, you can't say that you thought it was a prank because in the car beforehand, you're literally saying we're going to go in and kill her. Like, that's not a prank.
Well, a lot of them argue that they were just making a movie.
No.
And it got carried away.
Well, then you got carried away and you committed murder, so go to jail.
Right.
Right.
But the other one said, oh, it got carried away because he started actually killing her. I was just kidding. You know, I wasn't serious about it.
But I just stabbed a couple times.
Right. Because they
Right.
forced me.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's kind of basically what he says.
Okay.
Because he's telling police like he believed that they were playing a prank up until the moment that Cassie is killed. And he told detectives that Adamek threatened him if he cooperated with the police. And in the next interview, he finally admitted that he did stab his classmate more than once, but it was under pressure. Yeah.
What's also interesting that I just thought of, if you haven't seen Scream 1 and you don't want to spoiler, skip ahead like 15 seconds. But in the first Scream, there are 2 killers.
Well.
Which is interesting that...
Yeah. Draper told detectives that, quote, Adamek came over and says, make sure she is dead. You need to stab her. During Draper's trial, Joe Lucero, a friend of Adamek's family and a former soccer teammate of Draper, had testified he bought 4 knives for the defendant several days after turning 18. Lucero said Draper and Adamek wanted the knives for a collection. On the day of the purchase, Lucero said Draper withdrew $40 from a local bank en route to the Pocatello pawn shop. He told the jury, quote, we went to the knife case and they started going through them. Lucero later identified 4 knives, which were entered into evidence the week prior to the trial, that he said Draper and Adamek selected at the pawn shop. The knives were discovered by detectives days after the attack in the Black Rock Canyon, along with other evidence prosecutors said the defendants tried to hide at the site.
I'm sorry, how far away is the Black Rock Canyon from her house?
I don't know.
Oh,
Didn't
okay.
say. I don't think it's far, but I don't think it's close.
Okay, because I'm wondering, like, just more so with, like, they took a wrong turn and they ended up there. Like, you know, did you take a wrong turn, you ended up 10 minutes away? Or did you take a wrong turn and you ended up, like, an hour and a half away? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm assuming because they didn't emphasize the distance of how far this place was, that it wasn't too far.
Okay.
It's just, I think it's more because it's a canyon, it's secluded, no one's really out there.
Right.
But in the end, despite their arguments, both boys were convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder.
Dang.
On August 21st, 2007, based on being convicted of first-degree murder, each received a mandatory life sentence of imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
Damn.
Plus 30 years to life for being convicted of conspiracy to commit murder.
That's actually wild, giving a minor life without parole.
We'll get there. On August 30th, the 2 boys were transferred to the Idaho State Correction Institution in the same van. They could have requested separate cars or a barrier to separate them, but instead they sat next to each other and chatted. Lieutenant K.G. Fonsbeck of the Bannock County Sheriff's Office, who drove the boys, told reporters, quote, they asked me a couple times if I could let them go. They would say, we're just stupid kids. Can't you let us go? According to Fonsbeck, neither teen had been very social with anyone since being arrested. He goes on to say, quote, it was a little like a class reunion. Basically, they told each other they had no animosity towards one another. Draper and Adamek talked about the events that have them spending the rest of their lives in prison. Lieutenant Fonsbeck said, quote, a comment they made is, who would have ever thought that 3 days out of our lives would have an effect on them for the rest of their lives?
You killed someone.
Yeah, exactly. The convicted teen's attorney filed separate appeals in the Idaho Supreme Court in September 2010 for Adamek and April 2011 for Draper. Draper was seeking to have his conviction vacated or to be given a limited life sentence that would allow for his release on parole if approved after 30 years.
Oh, my God.
The first appeal for both Adamek and Draper was denied in a 3-2 decision. In July 2015, Adamek gained a hearing for post-conviction relief with the state 6th District Magistrate Judge Mitchell W. Brown. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it was.
He claimed that testimony from character witnesses could have changed the outcome of the sentencing, but that his former attorney, against his parents' wishes, chose not to call upon these witnesses. Adamek said that his attorney believed that the prosecution would have submitted even more damaging evidence, which the video was already pretty damaging.
Uh-huh.
In March 2016, Judge Brown denied the request for post-conviction relief. Adamek appealed Judge Brown's decision to the Idaho Supreme Court, which on December 26, 2017, rejected Adamek's appeal for post-conviction relief and upheld the district court decision. Following the Idaho Supreme Court's decision, Adamek filed another federal writ of habeas corpus,
Okay.
which, according to Google, a federal writ of habeas corpus is a procedure that allows a federal court to review the legality of a person's incarceration and can also be used to determine if a state's detention of a prisoner is valid.
Oh.
And it is what
Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ellie used.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
So he does this in January 2018, in which he argued that the court denied his first appeal based on a theory that was not presented to the jury. Adamek also argued that he should be entitled to a new sentencing hearing in light of the Miller and Montgomery decisions, which is a ruling from 2012 that struck down automatic life terms with no chance of parole for teenage killers.
Yeah, okay.
Now, even those who were convicted long ago must be considered for parole or given a new sentence.
Okay.
Federal Magistrate Judge Candy W. Dale presided over Adamek's writ on November 25th, 2019, and she denied it. God, I know where I was then. Oh, weird. November 25th.
Oh.
Adamek appealed Judge Dale's decision in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals with oral arguments on February 7th, 2022.
Jeez.
On March 24th, 2022, the court upheld the sentence, and it was in an unpublished decision, so they just know that.
Right.
And both men are still serving their time at the Idaho State Correctional Institution.
How old would they be now?
I think they're in their 30s.
Jeez.
These guys were born in 1990.
Oh my God.
They're literally
So they're
4 years
34.
older. Yeah.
Jeez.
Like, there would have been a good chance that they could have been seniors when we were freshmen. Yeah.
Ew.
Like, very close in age, which freaks me out.
Well, yeah, because if it was 2006, we were in 6th grade, 6th or 7th, depending. And so they would have been
That's the
9th.
fall of 2006, so we just started 6th grade.
We graduate the year that it is. So we would have graduated 6th grade in 2006.
We would have gone in at 2005, finished in 2006. So then we would have been going into 7th grade in 2006.
Yeah. So yeah, we very well could have been in the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, they're so stupid.
No, they're not, because I'm going to take all this dumb shit out and we're going to get right to the point where we figure it out fast. So in January 2013, Shannon Adamek, the mother of Tori Adamek, published a book titled The Guilty Innocent, which received criticism due to Adamek's denial of her son's involvement in the crime.
Yeah.
On February 16th of 2023, the tape recordings that Draper and Adamek made, along with a complete transcript of the tape recording, were obtained from the Bannock County court system through the Idaho Public Records Act. So that's how I found it.
Oh, look at you.
So based on the information that you have been given, who do you believe either did it? Do you believe one of them did it? Or do you think one of them was the ringleader and pushed the other? Do you think they're both equal in this?
I think you swayed me from the beginning where you kept saying that like Draper referred to her as the victim. So I think from the very beginning, I already thought that he was the ringleader. So that's kind of where my mind was the whole time.
So I thought the same thing too, especially like when you watch the video. He's a lot more, not charismatic, that's not the right word, but more of a character.
Okay.
You know, like you can tell that he's making the video because of wanting to be seen.
The video of him like talking about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at first I'm thinking like, oh, well, yeah, he got this shy little kid to do whatever.
Right. That's kind of exactly because he was like, you know, the victim and my friend were sitting at the same table.
He does say in the video, I killed Cassie. But you just don't hear his friend say anything else.
Right.
It's what is he going to do? Correct and be like, no, we did. Like, why would you want credit?
Share the blame, please.
What?
Right.
So there's this website that I'm going to go ahead and assume his mom made. And you're like reading why he didn't get a fair trial and like why he is innocent. And at one point she says, or whoever wrote it says something of like, you can hear Tori tell Brian to like not include the humorous stuff. And right there after that, I said wrong. And I know because I wrote down what these motherfuckers said. And he was not the one to do this. So I'm going to share some of the transcripts with you,
Okay.
and I want to see if it maybe changes your mind.
Okay. And just so I have my facts straight, when they got in the car, Brian Draper
Mhm.
was the one who was like, oh my God, I can't believe we did that. And then Tori, whatever, was the one who was like very stoic and
Yeah.
kind of.
He was like, he got like angry at him freaking out and be like, shut the fuck up. We need to get our act straight.
Okay. Okay.
So at first, like, I'm kind of thinking that too, but then I went on Reddit.
As you do.
And some of the comments, because there was like one person who tried to say he was a cellmate, I believe, of Tori,
Oh, okay.
and was also trying to be like, yeah, he didn't do it. Or maybe it was Brian, one of the two. But then someone commented and was like, actually, no, like if you really listen to it, you can hear that Tori is the one that cuts off Brian. And like, it's like those subtle things that you don't really look for.
Yep.
So when I went back and listened,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was listening for that and I noticed a lot more.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's like a bias coming in because I saw someone else say it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I've pretty much decided both these kids are real fucked up.
Well, I think we've already decided that.
So there's parts of the video that are obviously from that night, but then there's also a lot from the night before. So the 21st.
Okay.
So the night before at 8:05, you hear Brian say, we're going for a high death count.
Ew.
They're driving around in the car. And then you hear Tori say, we're not going to not get caught, Brian. If we're going to go for guns, we're just going to end it. Grab the guns and get out of there.
What does that mean?
I'm assuming it's some sort of kind of go big or go home. Like,
Oh,
we're going to
okay.
leave a bullet for ourselves kind of thing.
Okay.
Some of these cut in to a conversation.
Okay.
But that's what I'm assuming. Brian comes back and says, we're going to make history. He says it twice. So as you go through this, you're going to see that Brian is like, we're going to make history. Like, we're going to be all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Tori has a different reason for doing this. That's the other thing, too. They both seem to have different reasons.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the camera turns to shine it on to Tori, who has got a smile on his face. And there's like really somber music playing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tori says, for the FBI agent watching this, you weren't quick enough.
Oh my God.
And so Brian laughs and says, you weren't quick enough or smart enough. We are going to, and they say someone's house, and I couldn't tell what the person's name was, going to snoop around over there to see if she's home alone or not. I think she's home alone.
How it sounded like with how you said it was it makes it Tori sound like FBI agent, like you weren't quick enough, like being legit. And then
Yes.
Brian being like, ha ha ha, yeah, you weren't quick enough. Like,
Yes.
oh, you know, like kind of
Yes.
Brian or Tori is like very like straightforward, like, this is the fact, like I'm serious.
Mhm.
And then Brian's like, oh yeah, that was good, you know?
It's funny though, because when you see the picture of them, like when I first saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that definitely kind of looks like a guy that will go off the deep end. But again, the more I watched it, I was like, Tori is quietly creepy,
Yeah.
which I almost think is scarier. So Brian's still like continuing on his thing of like, we're going to see if she's home or not, whatever. And then he goes, splat, she's dead.
Oh my God.
So Tori goes, don't put your humor into this, Brian. And he goes, you give me nothing to work with. Yep, people will die, memories will fade. And the other guy, Tori repeats that. And he goes, I wonder what movie you got that from. I'm going to go ahead and assume it's from Scream, but now that you're looking at me like that, maybe not.
Say the quote again.
People will die, memories will fade.
It might be a Scream. Hold on. Mm-mm.
Then I don't know what movie it might be from.
It keeps coming up with Eternal Sunshine of the something mind.
I just assumed. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. I could be wrong.
So when he says that to him, Brian starts laughing and he goes, myself, being like, oh, I got it for myself. What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Tori goes, no wonder it was so lame. And then that's when they end it and they're like, okay, we're on the way. Stay tuned. 3 minutes later.
30 or 3?
3.
Oh, okay.
Still playing somber music, but the person that they wanted to kill was not home when they went there. So Brian is saying, we're going to go to that church over there to call a girl and a guy named Cassie and Matt. They're our friends, but we have to make sacrifices. So, and then he goes on to say, I feel tonight is the night. It feels weird, but I feel like I want to kill someone. I know it's not normal, but... And then Tori says, I feel we need to break away from normal life. And so then they turn off the music, which is when you realize that it wasn't added for scary
Oh
effect.
my
It was like they
God.
were playing it.
Right.
And so Tori goes on to say, because let's say it this way, parents along with their parents, along with their parents, and so on, taught them the whole God and Jesus bullshit. I'm sure you guys believe in God as well. I discovered when I was in 7th grade. You don't believe in Santa Claus, werewolves, or vampires. They're used as a metaphor to not let. And then he kind of like trails off and changes his thinking, and he says, they taught their kids in the 1800s, I learned this in English class, about telling their kids they can't go outside because a vampire will get you, just to make their kid stay and do what they want.
The Snallygaster.
God is the same way. And so Brian's agreeing with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, trying to get people to do good or so-called go to hell. And Brian says, and we're obviously going to hell if it's real, you know? I don't give a shit. So both of them are agreeing it's not real.
Right.
So Tori goes on and says, people believe it because their parents teach them about it. It's so hard for them to let go of it because they've been taught it their whole life. But the point I'm making is we are also taught that things like killing people is wrong. The only thing wrong about killing people is that it's breaking the law, and it's against the law because, and then there's like a kind of an interruption in his little speech here.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if like Brian is correcting him about giving a lecture. I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes what they say.
Okay.
But Tori keeps going and says, there should be no law against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it and they're going to want to do it more.
It's not that it's just a bad thing because the law says it's bad. It's bad because it's like morally bad,
Yeah.
which is why it then became a law.
Yeah. And I think his point being it's only against the law because God said that it was bad and he doesn't think there's a God. I don't know.
Oh my God.
So this was at like 8:08, cuts the camera off, comes back 8:15, and they're driving around. So like Brian is the one talking. Tori gets annoyed with him because Brian is like, we're going to Cassie and Matt's house to see if they're there. And like Tori snaps at him and is like, it's Cassie's house and Matt is there. And then he gets like, okay, defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of goes through their plan. We're going to knock on the door and see who is there, see if their parents are home or not. And if they are home alone, we leave and come back in about 10 minutes and sneak through the front door. They are probably in Cassie's room. We will make noise outside and Matt will come out to investigate, kill him, and scare the shit out of Cassie. And then Tori goes, sounds like fun. So then about 15 minutes later, they're talking about finding their first victim, which I'm thinking is Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
She's our friend, but you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie Stoddart and her friends. This was Brian talking. So Brian continues and says, we will find out if she has friends over. She's going to be alone in a big dark house out in the middle of nowhere. And they're like laughing with joy as they say this. How perfect can you get? I mean, like, holy shit, dude. And then Tori says, I'm horny just thinking about it.
No. I mean, it's also, again, bringing it back to Scream is like the killers are like laughing about it and they're
Yes.
like having a fun time,
Yeah.
like terrorizing the people and chasing them, knowing that they're going to kill them.
Very sadistic. And so then Brian continues and says, hell yeah, we're going to fucking kill her and her friends. We're going to keep moving on. I heard news about some girl named Kirsten. She's going to be home alone 6 to 7. So it's not just one person. They want to kill a bunch of people.
Right. Well, they said they wanted that high kill count.
Yep. So he keeps going, goes, so we might kill her, then drive over to Cassie's thing and scare the shit out of them and kill them one by fucking one. Hell yeah. And Tori goes, why one by one? Why can't it be a slaughterhouse? And Brian says, 2 by 2, 3 by 3. We got to keep it classy. And Tori goes, no, we don't. And then Brian says, it's going to be extra fun. And Tori goes, you're evil. And Brian says, yes, I am, but you're evil too. And Tori gets real upset. And he's like, no, evil is an expression of God. That's another test you failed.
Oh my
So
God.
Tori's really into this whole stuck on this religion thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Religious trauma.
So they're kind of arguing about like, Brian is saying it's not a expression of God, but Tori's not giving up. So frustrated, Brian asks, so how are we supposed to express ourselves? Or how to describe ourselves? And Tori goes, good and bad. And Brian says, okay, we're bad. That sounds so lame. And Tori says, so does evil. And so then Brian says, okay, we're 6 psychopaths who get pleasure killing other people. And Tori goes, sounds good, baby. And then Brian says, we are going to go down in history. We are going to be just like Scream, except in real life terms. And then again, Tori shouts, that sounds good, baby. And Brian says, we are going to be murderers like Ted Bundy, the Hillside Strangler, the Zodiac Killer. And Tori goes, nah, those people are amateurs compared to what we are going to be. We're going to be of a higher source. I think he meant caliber. He's not all there.
Right.
And he goes, like Ed, and he can't think of his last name.
Oh.
And they say Gene. And as I was watching, I was like, it's Geen.
Idiot.
Idiot. And so Brian helps him and thinks it's Gene. So he says Gene. And so then Tori says, Ed Gene.
Oh my God.
And then Brian says, ha ha, we aren't that sick and twisted. And then Tori says, you know what Ed Geen's words were?
Ed Jeans.
Geens, what did I say?
You said Geen.
Which is
you
right.
said it
Sorry.
correctly.
Yes, he said Ed Geen's words. And I'm pretty sure you've probably heard this quote. He said, when I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think 2 things. One part of me wants to take her out, talk to her, be real nice and sweet and treat her right. The other part wonders what her head would look like on a stick.
Mm-hmm.
Tori quoted that.
From memory?
Yes, because they're still in the car driving around. Like this pretty much almost this entire time they've been in the car driving around.
And you can't pronounce the name correctly?
Right. But he sure can quote him.
Mm-hmm.
Brian does this like laugh. I can't tell if it's like we're having fun or like starting to get a little nervous. And then Tori just a creepy voice because he's also laughing. That's creepy, huh? Like,
right.
And then the last thing that is said before the video cuts out is Brian going, yeah, murder is power, murder is freedom. Goodbye. Our last part. So like I had told you, there's one part where it's the morning of the 22nd. It's like 8:30 in the morning, walking down a hallway. You see a girl standing at her locker. You know it's Cassie because it's just Brian right now. And he says, I'm getting you on tape. Say hi, please. She kind of says hi. She looks very shy.
Right.
And he's like, okay, see ya. But then he goes back and asks if she's seen Tori. And he was like, well, he was supposed to meet me at 7:30 and now he's an hour late. I'm like, that means he wouldn't be in school. It's fucking 8:30. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway. And she's not really responding. So he jokingly was like, you don't even care, do you? And she kind of like smiles like, oh, ha, ha, ha.
Right.
And he just laughs and walks away. So from 12:11 to, I think, 12:30, so roughly 15 minutes, you just see the two of them sitting in, I don't know if it was a library, an office, I don't know. It's not a classroom, but they are in school still.
The 2 boys?
The 2 boys.
Okay.
They're sitting at a table. Brian has a textbook in front of him. Tori has 2 notebooks, one that he's writing in and one that's underneath that. And this is the part where it's hard to hear what they're saying because of where they are. They're kind of whispering. So it was really difficult to catch some of the things that they were saying, but it almost seemed like they were just skipping the rest of the day.
Okay.
Because at some point, they're also trying to hide from their teacher.
And they're like filming themselves doing this.
Yeah, they got a fucking video recorder sitting right in front of them. And like Brian is like on the floor practically with his textbook. And Tori's like,
oh my God,
you can't see me if I can't see you.
Right.
They're writing their plan is what they're doing as we watch this. And they're writing their list of people.
Ew.
Yeah. The thing that I thought, this is what kind of changed my mind about the ringleader, because when they see their teacher and they're trying to hide, Brian had the book. He was like, whatever. Tori just had the 2 notebooks. He kind of turns his body so that whoever's standing on that other side might not be able to see his face, but he keeps writing the plan.
Right.
At no real point in this video did he really stop writing unless it was to either respond to Brian or talk to the video camera.
Right.
And as far as I could tell, not one moment, except for maybe the very end, did Brian offer any like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. It was just Tori writing the whole time. Which I was like, that's weird. So
Which then it seems like he made Brian read, because in one of the videos you said Brian's kind of reciting the plan of what they're going to do.
Yes.
Because it's in Tori's mind. And so now
Yes.
he's trying to get it into Brian's mind.
Yeah. And then at one point, Brian says, if you're watching this, we are probably deceased. So pretty creepy. Just thought about that. But whatever.
They think they're so cool.
Yep. Brian says to the camera, it's supposed to happen tonight. Get our first kill done and keep going. Tori looks at the camera and goes, for you future serial killers watching this tape, I don't know what to say. And just smiles. Good luck with that. And Brian says, yeah, good luck. And Tori says, hopefully you don't have 8 or 9 failures like we did. And then Brian says, yeah, we've probably tried like 10 times. They've never been alone. Yeah. Or their parents show up is what Tori said. And so Brian says, got to be patient. We were patient and it paid off. Our victim is home alone. It all worked out. I'm sorry, Cassie's family, but she had to be the one. We have to stick to the plan and she's perfect. So she's going to die. And then they mentioned maybe some new victim because that person told them to shut up or to be quiet.
Oh my God.
Which quite honestly is one of my biggest fears, of like passing a stranger and them thinking I'm rude and them turning around and killing me.
Things women fear.
Brian says, I've always wanted to make my mark on the world, and this is how I'm going to do it. Tori then says, we got to kill all those Mormons out there.
Oh.
So they continue discussing being famous, everyone knowing their name, yada, yada, yada. And I guess Tori asked Brian how long it would last, and Brian said 2 weeks. And Tori was like disappointed. Like,
what would last 2 weeks?
Their killing spree.
Oh.
Really? Only 2 weeks? He's like, well, we got to be smart about it. You know, I think we'll get 8 kills. And then Tori, with this like really creepy fucking smirk on his face, says something about getting 20 kills. And then they're both like, that's a lot of people.
Oh my God.
And then Tori says, but there are a lot of people in this world. And he also says, I think a perfect ending would be a school shootout. Side note, Brian fully admits, and there is evidence, he was infatuated with the 2 teenagers that...
Columbine.
Thank you. He like was fascinated with them. He wanted to be like them. He posts about it like on his MySpace or something. In the 2024 interview, he full on admits that he was like super fascinated with them.
Ew.
Yeah. So, like I said, they both seem pretty fucked up, but I think just for very different reasons.
Yeah.
So they get excited about their body count. They're planning out different scenarios. And then Brian sees a friend. And he just tells a friend who's off camera at this point, oh, we're just filming a documentary for a school project. And he kind of like looks at Tori and laughs and goes, you could call it a project, right? And so the other guy keeps talking to him and asks if Brian is going to play soccer that year. And he said, no, like I just got too much going on. And he keeps looking at the camera like it's an inside joke.
Right.
And what I'm thinking at this point is I was like, okay, you hear that the people who do this, whether it's a school shooting or what these guys are doing when they're young like this, that they feel like outcasts, that they feel ignored. Brian seemed relatively popular.
Yeah.
Even Tori seemed like a good amount of people knew him. And so when he's talking about being seen and being famous, I was like, you seem like you're pretty well known.
Yeah.
Because when the friend does come into the frame and like Brian introduces him, I don't know what his real name is because he called him 3-piece.
Okay.
But he was just standard white dude. But he was a football player because he was wearing a jersey. Maybe I'm just associating it with our high school days. But I'm pretty sure a football player wouldn't be talking to you.
No.
You know, like he stopped and had a conversation with him.
Right.
So I was like, that's weird. So this guy kind of like funnily crawls over. He has no idea what they're doing because Tori has also put the notebook that he'd been writing in underneath the other one. So he generally thinks they're just making a fun video. So he's kind of like crawling. You can't see his head yet. And then his head kind of like pops up and he waves. And then he kind of gets up a little bit taller and he starts pretending to choke himself.
Ew.
As if like either he's being attacked or whatever. The 2 boys have to keep themselves from cracking up at the irony.
Oh my God.
And they just stop the camera. And so the last part for when they come back, Tori goes on this thing about if they're going to make a movie about him, that he wants the character to look just like him. And he doesn't care what his parents say and that they can use this tape if his parents decide to sue for any reason. Again, they're talking about a future. They're talking about people seeing this in the future, but then they burn it.
Right.
Brian pretty much agrees, and then they go back to planning. They have like scenario C, and then they're, writing shit down, and then,
Ew.
yeah.
That's so creepy.
Yeah. And it's like one of those things that you're like watching it and you're like, you can so see it being two boys just being stupid and being boys and making this video.
Mm-hmm.
But then because they actually kill someone,
Right.
then you look back and watch and hear what they say with a whole different lens.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think you're fucking serious.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you didn't get caught, you 100%.
Yeah.
We're going to go on this
kept
spree.
doing this
30 times? That's a lot.
That's a lot.
If that's something that's going to freak you out, maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
But to go full throttle 30 times,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're saying that someone else is doing it and it's freaking you out, you wouldn't get the fuck out of there?
No, yeah. From all of this, it does seem like Tori's the ringleader. So through all of their confessions as well, Tori's like, he didn't break first. And the other one broke first.
Crying.
Right. So it's like Tori went in with the mentality like, this is what we're going to do and this is going to happen. This is real. And Brian it seems like he went in with like, this is going to be fun. Like, this could be a thing that we do. Like, And then when it gets real, he's like, oh, like, this is real. Like, yeah, we did that. You know what I mean?
Like, when you watch it again, it definitely seems like Brian is the character. He's the one doing most of the talking. And you can kind of start to see like, oh, maybe he really did think that they were making a movie or whatever.
He seems like the face and Tori seems like the brain.
Correct. That's exactly how I look at it too.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, according to Brian, because Tori would not agree to an interview.
Right, because he's the brain. Brian's the face.
Mm-hmm. Brian did. They don't speak though, even though they've been in the same jail. Even as I'm like reading this interview that he did, and just the fact that he says my victim.
Yeah.
I think they're both pretty twisted and fucked up, and they found each other. It's just that they're very different people.
Yes.
So they're
fucked up in different ways.
Correct. But I think at the end of the day, maybe Brian was shocked at first when it happened, but I feel like almost half of those stab wounds are fatal.
Mm-hmm.
And he even says in the video, I stabbed her in the neck.
Yeah. It's like you knew what you were doing.
Right. I think they both played a part in it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think maybe Tori was the one to kind of push them to actually do it.
I think he was.
They both wanted to do it. And maybe one of them was a little bit more serious than the other. And I think that person might have been Tori.
I think so.
At one point in his interview, Brian tries to say that he didn't want to be friends with Tori at first because he thought he was mean. And this biology class was how they became friends, and they started talking about movies. And he tried to say that their friendship was surface level.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you don't have a surface level friendship if you agree to kill all these people.
Right.
That's not a surface level conversation.
No, it's not.
So also, like, can Idaho really deny them all those appeals when this Supreme Court ruling says that anybody who was given life without parole as a kid.
Well, they could because the Supreme Court ruling came after the sentencing.
But the ruling says that even if it's been a long time, it doesn't matter how long it's been. If you were convicted as a minor and you were given life without parole, he was trying to say, okay, well, here's this court ruling that says that I was a kid and I'm technically not allowed to get life without parole as a 16-year-old, even tried in adult court. And they were like, too bad, so sad. That was the only part that I thought was weird.
Yeah.
All the other ones, I'm like, yeah, fuck you.
Right.
But that one, I was like, can you do that?
I don't know.
What's also weird is you hear more about Tori trying to get this shit appealed than you do Brian.
Again, because Tori's the mind behind it all.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. That was dark.
I'd never want a basement again.
No.
Basements already scared me as it was.
That's what I think about here. Like, when I come lock the doors, I, check our doors. I'm like, I don't have to check a basement door.
I was going to say, you guys don't have a...
Nope.
Okay.
We do not. That's so I don't have to check it.
Yeah. That's like one of those things, like, in your dreams, when someone is after you, you're, like, trying to make sure everything's locked.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, the basement door.
Right. And then they always come up from the basement.
Yeah.
Well, awful story. Nicely told, though.
Thank you. There's a bunch of, like, YouTube videos, TikToks, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to watch or listen to it because
Yeah.
I felt like it wasn't going to be much different than what I found. I honestly, the only thing I really was looking for in terms of extra was more about Cassie and her life and who she was.
Yeah.
And so maybe some of those videos and things like that give a lot more of that.
Mm-hmm.
What is also crazy, her aunt and uncle, her uncle apparently has never gone back in the house.
Oh.
And they don't obviously go into the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been trying to sell the house for like 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
They had bought it a year before this happened.
That's awful.
Yeah. And like, you know, he has an article that he's talking about like the kind of like the trauma that they had gone through.
Yeah.
Like his wife, you know, falling into such a severe depression that she like couldn't even have a job. His daughter, as you can imagine, finding,
Yeah.
you know, she went through her own issues with that. And it's like, it's, you know, Andrew had said in his article that it affected everybody differently in
Yeah.
the family. And when I was looking at the article with the uncle, seeing it was 2014, I'm like, that I don't know if they're still trying to sell it or if they finally have.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, yeah, Allison, you know, and I guess whoever his daughter is are back in the house, but I can never go back.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't either. But that's also probably why it's hard to sell it. Because
Yeah.
you have to disclose that.
Right. No, yeah.
So lock your doors and make sure you know your friends.
So yeah, I guess we'll just say stay scary.
Please stay safe.